Hi guys, this is the video for dividing functions. Note that this is the regular level, not the honors level. So if you're looking for the honors level, go back to Canvas and find that. So for dividing functions, they can be written in a bunch of ways. It can be like this, where it's f divided by g, and it uses the variable x. Or it can be this way here, with f over g, just written the same way. It can actually be written as like f of x over g of x. Or it can be written with the slash that we know also means division. Or they can use the word quotient, and the word quotient also means division. So all of those things mean division. We're going to do the same process no matter what. So if I'm looking at this problem here, it says if f of x equals this long whole thing here, and g of x equals x minus 1, so g is going to be our green equation here. What is f divided by g? So in order to do this, we're just going to actually put, it wants f on top. So I'm going to put my f equation, 2x to the third minus 3x squared plus 4x plus 5. That one goes on top. And then on bottom down here, they want the g of x equation. So it would be x minus 1. And that's pretty much it, y'all. We have f of x divided by g of x. The reason we can't be like canceling something like this is we've talked about this before, but like 46 divided by 56 is not just 4 over 5. We can't do that. So that's the same reason why we can't just cancel the x over x. So this is going to be our answer here. The one thing that we need to show is that x is not the denominator cannot be 0. Cannot be 0 because we're not allowed to divide by 0. So like 4 divided by 0 doesn't make any sense. It's undefined. So we have to find the thing that's going to make the denominator not 0. So in this case, x minus 1 is not allowed to be 0. We've done that before. So I want to get x by itself. I'm just going to add 1 on both sides. So I have x is not allowed to be 1. So that's what I'm going to put here. X is not allowed to be 1. And that's the second part of my answer. So all of this, including this part, would be considered my answer here. Kind of funky, a little fun. So we can try this one. So in this problem, we can see that they want us to do f on top, g on bottom, and instead of x, they want us to substitute the number 2. So again, I'm going to put f on top. So f is going to be 2x to the third minus 3x squared plus 4x plus 5. And then g's on the bottom. So it would be x minus 1 on bottom. In this problem, they're telling us that they want us to substitute anytime that we see the letter x, they want us to put in the number 2. So for this case, right here in this x, we're going to put a 2 here, we're going to put a 2 here, and we're going to put a 2 here. So for this problem, I'm going to have, it's going to be the same as writing 2 times 2 to the third minus 3 times 2 squared plus 4 times 2 plus 5 all over 2 minus 1. So I'm going to simplify down here. You can type all of this in your calculator, like type this whole thing in your calculator. Let me see if I have my calculator available here. Yep. Cool, so I'm going to go to my calculator, use Desmos, because I don't have a fancy calculator here at home. So times 2 to the power of 3 minus 3 times 2 to the power of 2 plus 4 times 2 plus 5. It tells me that the top is 17, equal to 17. Oops. Equal to 17 over, and then 2 minus 1 would just be 1. So I know 17 divided by 1 is just 17. So same as yesterday and the day before, whenever we have the x in our problem, we're going to end up with x in our answer. And whenever we have a number in our problem, we're going to end up with a number in our answer. So same thing. Cool. We have a couple more examples here. So this section here says, when dividing numbers, we know that we cannot divide by 0. The same is true for dividing functions. We need to find the value that will make the denominator 0 and exclude that number from the domain of the function. So that's essentially saying in fancy math language what we were just talking about right here, which is that the denominator cannot be 0. So we're going to look here. It tells us the 3 equations. It tells us f of x is this, g of x is this, and h of x is that. And it wants us to find each function. So we're going to do what it tells us to. And then it says indicate any restrictions, right, on the domain. That's where x is not allowed to be equal to. And we have to tell it what x is not allowed. So in this case, they want f. Let's make this guy go away. So f over g. So I'm going to put x squared plus 7x plus 12 over g, which is 3x minus 4. That's the beginning of my equation. And then in order to indicate any restrictions, the second part, I know that the denominator, this part down here, is not allowed to be 0. So I'm going to do that as kind of a separate problem. So 3x minus 4 is not allowed to be 0. I'm going to add 4 on both sides. 3x is not allowed to be 4 divided by 3. That means that I can see that x is not allowed to be 4 over 3. So for this problem, I know that this is my answer, but there's only one number that it's not allowed to be. X is not allowed to be 4 over 3. So that is also part of my answer there. That's because if x is 4 over 3, that's going to make this part turn into a 0, and we're not allowed to divide by 0. So that means that can't be possible. So we just kind of have to give our readers a warning that it can be any number except for the one that we tell it cannot be. So for this one here, for number 2, we'd say f of x on top, x squared plus 7x plus 12. And this time h on the bottom, h is 2x. So that is our f over h. And then we have to tell the reader what x is not allowed to be. So it's not allowed to be the denominator. So 2x is not allowed to be 0. Divide by 2 on both sides. It's going to give me x is not equal to 0 divided by 2 is just 0. So x is not allowed to be 0. Right? So I have kind of like my answer, and then I have the warning for my readers, what it's not allowed to be. Okay. That's pretty much it. We have just like one more section here. So this time they're telling us f over g, and then they're also telling us that all the x's are going to turn into 1s. So I have f, which is 3x squared plus 2x plus 1. And then g is on the bottom, x minus 4. And in this case, they're telling us the x's are turning into 1s. So this x, and that x are turning into 1s. So I'd have 3, 1 squared, plus 2 times 1, plus 1, all over 1 minus 4. So 3 times 1 would be 3, plus 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 over 1 minus 4 is negative 3. 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 6 over negative 3, which is negative 2. So if I see a number here, if I see a number right here, I should also have just one number right here. So if I'm substituting, I should get a value. They give us that in the directions. They tell us to find each function value. This word value means a number. Okay. Last example, number 4, it says g over h. So g is going to be x minus 4. H is 2x plus 1. And they're telling us that we're substituting in an 8 every time that we see an x. So this x is changing to an 8. That x is changing to an 8. So I'm going to have 8 minus 4. And 2 times 8 plus 1. So 8 minus 4 is 4. 2 times 8 is 16. Plus 1 would be 17. 4 over 17 would be my answer. You can use a decimal if you want, or I'm just going to leave it as a fraction. And again, I saw a number right here, so I know that I need to have a number as my answer. All right. You have, I think, a couple options for your assignment. Let me know if you have questions. Thanks, y'all.